Hi, my name is Somil, and I've spent the past 2 days working on this thing called Flaire, which you can think of as your personal stylist for your web pages. Now, if you're a web developer, you've definitely seen this. Whenever you create a big project, there's just so much CSS to write. Every single component, every single web page, all of those have slightly different requirements, slightly different CSS, but also it has to be fairly similar just so that the website has that level of coherence. The tools like ChatGPT are just not enough in this case, where, in my personal case, ChatGPT is either too simple of a style, too unfamiliar of a style with the rest of the web page to gel together. And I really had to write those lines, write all of that CSS myself. So I kind of built this tool to help me out. If you look at the top left here, that's a render of just some plain HTML for some portfolio site. I gave that site to Flaire and just told it to make it modern and sleek using colors like black and gold. And it came up with this, which is fairly good in my opinion. And this is all just in one prompt, no iteration whatsoever. I'll obviously go into detail, technically speaking, how this happens later. But for now, let's focus on one main feature. Flaire remembers how you style your components throughout a project. What does this actually mean? This means when you go onto the platform, when you start a project and you start, styling things, start giving it components, it's going to remember how it styled them. It's going to remember how you wanted it to style them, which means that the next time you come and give it components, it will be similar to that style, and it'll keep that level of coherence, keep that level of similarity, so that you can essentially just use this to style your entire project one by one. But that's a lot of talking. How about I'll just go ahead and show you the platform and you can see what I mean. So right here is what you go ahead and pretty much see when you want to step into a project in Flaire. So I'll just take you through the actions one by one. This is just some HTML that I had prepared. I actually made ChatGPT output a sample website for a SaaS that was called Flaire. And how about let's make Flaire transform this into some sort of minimalist, modern, nice looking website. I'll just enter in something that I want it to look like. And there you go. I've given it my prompt, I've given it my command. As you can see right there, it started working. The action has gone to the back end and it's just going to start giving out code soon. So the way that this works is basically Flaire is kind of its own agent, its own framework running in the background. And as soon as you give it any input, this could be code, that could be telling it to style using that button, it could be chatting. As soon as you give it that input, it starts it in its entire loop of deciding what action to take, how to iterate based on that, and how best to solve the user's needs. So in this case, it's probably going to decide to style the components first, which means it'll output some first basic CSS and just put that there. Now from there, this renderer will update immediately, and after that the agent will probably decide to take a screenshot of the renderer. Essentially, it has a bunch of actions available to it at all times, and it can decide which action to take based on whatever its current state is at any point. So that's kind of it. It's basically running that iterative loop for quite some time. It'll take like a minute or two to finally decide and finally come up to that perfect outcome. Okay, clearly it's already given out its basic CSS, its first iteration, and it seems to be fairly good. It looks like it's created some sort of hero page, some sort of features look. Oh, they also have some animations to them. Nice. But yeah, this is, I think, the first iteration of Flaire. From there, it probably takes a screenshot of this render. It decides if that's good enough. It decides if it should iterate more. And so that's kind of the whole decision loop. That's kind of how it works. Great. So it's ended. That basically means that, Flaire has done its thing. It's taken screenshots. It's decided that, this is probably the final outcome. This is good as it is. And pretty interesting. So the way is now, what I want to do is, let's say if you remove this CSS, all that it just came up with, if you remove this HTML as well, remove everything. Now, what I really wanted to show you is that Flaire genuinely remembers what kind of styling, what kind of projects, components it's already put in. So for this project, it will already remember that, certain cards, certain components are meant to be styled in a certain way. So how about, let's design a simple call to action button. It's just we have very simple code. That's it, right? That's basically it. I'm not going to give it any input. I'm not going to give it any chat. Just going to tell it to style, and I want to see what it does. So I'll just time lapse till the end and see you guys. And there you go. So what I really want to show you in this case, this button would fit in perfectly within the site that we had originally created. And that's essentially the idea of Flaire, that it's your copilot throughout the entire project.